Hello, I'm Richard Ridge for Broadway World. Four-time Olivier Award-winning actress Fiona Shaw is returning to Broadway in Colm Tóibín's new play, The Testament of Mary. Under the direction of Deborah Warner, it will open on April 22nd at the Walter Kerr Theatre. And we dropped by the rehearsal studio where they talked about this exciting new play.
It feels tremendous to be back with something that is so challenging. I mean, I have very rarely done new work. I only have one experience really. Before I worked on a Jeanette Winterson novel with Fiona, The Power Book, and we made that. It feels very exciting to be back in the city that I think has the best audiences. And I think if you are working on a one-person piece, which is obviously a dialogue with the audience, what you want is an extremely energized audience on the other side of that stage. And so that feels very good. It is a wonderful piece of writing. So we began with what Colm said to me is, look, it's just a piece of writing. He said, it's just a piece of writing. It's a wonderful piece of writing, and it's a springboard, I think, for us to make a piece of theatre. So our inspiration has been the novel, but we're not trying to adapt the novel. We're not trying to adapt the novel for the theatre. I think we're trying to use the novel as a springboard to make an act of theatre. And it will be an unusual act of theatre. I mean, that's for sure. I think when Scott Rudin approached me, he said that he wanted it precisely to be that, you know. And what you have in Scott is such bravery, don't you? It is fantastic that Broadway is prepared to risk doing brand new work. I mean, that is a way to make a healthy Broadway, I would say. And that isn't always what happens in the commercial theatre. But, you know, at the bottom of it is a wonderful story. You get the raising of Lazarus, you get the wedding at Cana, you get the miracle of the water into wine. It's heading towards the crucifixion, which of course is a much darker thing. And we're having to find ways of creating all of those stories with one person. She'd love a cast of thousands, but she is a cast of thousands, I think.
Talk about what it's like working with her. You have quite a collaboration together.
Well, this year we've worked out, marks 25 years of us working together. So I think what is very comforting is if you're going on an expedition and you're going into unknown land, it's very nice to go with somebody who you know can wear the right hiking boots and knows how to climb up rock faces, knows how to jump off mountains. She does know how to do that. She's the bravest actress that I know. And that bravery, the rehearsal room has to have bravery in it. I mean, if the rehearsal room is a place of timidity, nothing can happen in the theatre. So she's utterly brave, she's fearless, she's accurate, she's a genius with words. She can make one word have 45 meanings. There was a wonderful day when Colm came to us and said, I didn't know that word could have so many meanings. And that is Fiona's great ability.
So how exciting has this been working on this and collaborating with Fiona and Deborah?
Well, these are the two theatre artists I suppose I admire most in the world, and the idea that they would take on this great project, because it isn't, I mean, at the beginning it sounds like a feat for the memory. In other words, Fiona has to learn this extraordinary text, but of course that's only the beginning. What I realised then is that they paid such attention to every single inflection, every nuance, every comma, every word, and that they were, you know, constantly attempting to find a way of doing this properly and in a way taking it very seriously. So I learned a lot as a writer. You know, pay attention to every word, because if you don't, somebody else will.
And why did you think this would work so well on the stage?
Oh, it's because it's such a dramatic story. I mean, the story has, if you just think over the last 2,000 years, this story has been told in churches in various ways with, you know, from the Gospels, from the point of view of, say, St. John in St. John's Gospel. And it has held vast congregations. It is the greatest story ever told, isn't it? And this story that some people believed that this woman had a child and this child was not human, that God had intervened in history. So that I'm interested in exploring that dramatically.
So take me back to that image that caught in your mind, that put you on the path to write this.
Well, it was in Venice, and I had been in the Friary, which is a beautiful church, and I had looked a lot over the years at Titian's painting of the Assumption, which is a beautiful painting of Our Lady being assumed into heaven, body and soul, all in red robes, angels all around, God waiting for her, the blue sky. And then just up the road from it, in a secular building called the Scuola di San Rocco, there's an inner room, which is this huge painting by Tintoretto, almost hidden away, super dramatic, of the crucifixion, but it's an untidy painting. It's filled with the chaos of life. Okay, there's a cross in the middle. Okay, there are grieving figures in the middle, but people have horses. People are cooking. People are doing everything else as well. And it really made me think, oh my God, this might have been a very untidy event on the day. And if you're a writer, that distance between what is ideal or idealized and what it may have been like to have witnessed it is a very rich subject, and so it came as that.
It's just thrilling just to see you do the scenes in the room today.
Well, it was extraordinary. It was extraordinary for me to see, you know, every time she works, she builds this performance with such extraordinary care, with every single nuance, leaving silence, every single movement. It's this extraordinary act of choreography and of interpretation.
So what are you looking forward to the most with the New York audiences seeing the show?
Silence. In other words, that gasp that I hope I've been working for at certain moments when Fiona will stop for a second and turn, and you realise that there's a whole audience, but this is the whole idea of theatre, has gone absolutely quiet as though they're one entity. That.
Welcome back. How does it feel?
It's just the most marvellous city. I was saying to Debbie the other day as we were walking down 42nd Street, just saying how welcoming New York is as a city. It has people from all over the world. People look extraordinary in the street, to us anyway. They look extraordinary. And somehow the city holds every different type of person, and you can be anything you want in the city. And it has that lovely feeling, and I'm just enjoying it very, very much. I'm thrilled to be back.
Well, let's talk about this play. Thank you for doing what you did today of opening your rehearsal room for us.
Yes.
What has it been like working on this?
Very hard. It's a book, so it's 26,000 words, and we've got to try and bring it down to 12,000 words or something. And you want to keep it all in because there's landscapes of people, there's political situations, there's other characters, and we've had to jettison so much to get it down into the story. But the story itself plays like a parallel track to the New Testament. So you don't need to have known the New Testament. You'll hear the story anew. And it's never lampooned. It's like a strange slant on something that we may have all known. And even for non-Christians, these stories have filtered into every piece of our art, into our clothing, into our colour schemes. So lying underneath it is this very human story of a mother and a son. So it's a great privilege to be part of it.
What have the biggest challenges been for you so far with trying to find her?
It's actually in trying not to find her, to allow her to be whatever she wants to be. So there's one section where she runs away and she becomes a thief for a moment, and she's ashamed of it. Well, nobody ever thinks of the Virgin Mary becoming a thief. That she herself was put into a position where she became sort of a terrorist, so she bumps into lots of different outside groups that may exist in our society. She too became an outsider, and in that way she's a much more universal character, but a lot less sweeter character than one might have expected. So that's been difficult. It's just allowing her to be whatever she needs to be.
And talk about your collaboration with Deborah.
Well, I've worked with Deborah on and off over 20 years, and we've done always experiments, and in a funny way this is another experiment. It's so brave to be encouraged by Broadway, of all places, to say, come and try this thing out right in the middle of New York. So we do feel, of all the mountains we've climbed, we've really met the Eiger now.
Having Colm here, I mean, the whole collaboration between the three of you, what that's been like.
Well, he's just been wonderful because he has been very, very allowing of us to shift things for their theatrical abilities rather than for their literary power. And I think that's just amazing, very brave of a literary person who wants to perhaps dot every I and add a lovely phrase. And we're cutting these phrases in to pare it right down to the story. He's been really wonderful. But he also has written a wonderful story, and I think he's visionary. He's like a sort of William Blake character. He seems to write completely from his insight, so it all comes out really purely. It's great.
What are you looking forward to the most with bringing this to a Broadway audience?
Well, I'm really looking forward to what I hope is a very mixed audience. I hope a young audience, I hope a different religious audience, I hope a Jewish audience, a Muslim audience, a Christian audience. I think it'll be very, very interesting. I think it'll be very interesting for men to see it, because suddenly it's the woman's point of view, as it were, in the story that is so male-dominated. And suddenly you see there's a lot of women appear in the Bible, which you never realise. That suddenly her friends, all these females who are just names in the New Testament, suddenly become people. So I'm hoping for a really interesting response from people who I hope will allow it to be whatever it wants to be for them. It's very human. It is a very human story.